faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
Welcome to the Phoenix Podcast with yours truly, Ken Sharpe. And tonight we're delighted to have on our show Paul Makaya. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Paul is a dynamic 31-year-old entrepreneur recognized with accolades such as his inclusion in the 2020 Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 list, quite something I may add, and the 2018 Gumi Guru 40 Under 30 list of emerging Zimbabwean leaders. He serves as the vice curator of none less than the World Economic Forum's Global Shapers Harare Hub, working on climate resilience initiatives. Additionally, he champions budding entrepreneurs through the Zimbabwe Youth Awards, nurturing innovation and entrepreneurship among Zimbabwean youth. Paul, tell me, how did you get into all this?
I would say, I think by the grace of God, and also just the hunger to be in business, really. So I think as a start, that's the overarching need that got me into all this stuff.
So how far back can you remember being a youngster wanting to go into business? What age were you?
So my family was an entrepreneurial family. So my dad was into construction, and then my mom was a seamstress. So she used to create clothes for the community. So from early ages, I never knew anyone in my family who used to work for anyone. So I always used to get ideas whenever my dad came back after doing a project and say, oh, you know what, I could do this better. Maybe if he asked me a question, I would give him, I would want to give him tips, etc. So that's where I started seeing my parents in their small SMEs and always having ideas of what we could do differently, or this and this is what I would want to add to their business. So that's where it really started.
So your parents were your role models?
Definitely, yeah.
And how young were you? How far back can you remember? What age?
Since primary, I think, from grade 3, grade 4. Wow. That's because all my life I've never seen them working for anyone. Mm-hmm. And that's where the exposure for business came from.
So you can safely say sort of 9, 10 years of age.
Definitely, yeah.
You're seeing your parents in business. These are the role models, and this is what I want to do in my life.
Yes.
So tell us some of your initial ideas. What did you think about, and what did you go into?
The first, so I'm passionate about art and design. So I've always been drawing, painting, etc. So I went to a local high school, and the first thing I used to do, like the typical MPC, so maths, physics, and chemistry, Form 1 to Form 4. But I always felt like this is not for me, and I was always average, all right? And then lower 6, I just decided to tell my parents, hey, I'm dropping maths. I'm going to do art and technical graphics.
Was that a shock for them?
Not really. No. I guess they were very supportive because they always knew that I was artistic, okay. Right? And so when I dropped, I went into art and technical graphics. And from there, I started getting all the awards, the first prizes, etc. That's when I saw that, hey, there's something there. But my yearning was not really for art in its purest form of painting, sculptures, etc. It was a mixture, like I said, of business and art. So I started looking for businesses or opportunities that merged the two, business and art. And that's when I then went to Chino University and I studied art and creative art and design. That's when I discovered the advertising industry, because it perfectly merged my passion for business and art, because I didn't want to be like a total artist, fine artist, but I also had a passion for business. But going back to your question, where it started, so during college, I decided to say, hey, let me experiment with this business thing. Do I actually have a neck for it? So what I did is I bought some chickens, I think 100 chickens.
They're all chicks? Or
exactly, they are chicks, right? And I said, you know what, let me see if I can actually grow them and sell them. And then maybe I can decide if I'm actually an entrepreneur. So yeah, I did that in college, and it ended up actually paying for my raise, my accommodation.
No ways. From 100 chickens?
From 100 chickens.
So where did you keep them?
So at my house, there was a space at the back where me and my dad built a small shed for the chickens, and that's where we kept the chickens. So that's how I then saw, hey, I'm actually interested in this kind of life, of entrepreneurship.
So how long did the chicken business last?
You know what? It was too small scale for me. So when I finished school, I went back I did attachment. So that's when it stopped, basically. And then other avenues started opening up.
So over a year or two, you continued doing the chickens every month, rearing them?
Yes, yeah.
And you managed to do it successfully, make a profit?
Yes, I was making a profit. I could pay my raise. So it wasn't a big business. It was just something to test me and see, hey, am I actually an entrepreneur? Is this something for me? Yeah.
So where did that lead to? What did it teach you?
So it taught me that it's not as easy as it looks. It taught me that it's not about the product, it's about the sales. You need to sell the stuff you actually built. Because I had this chicken, but I didn't have the market. So what I did, I went around all the chicken restaurants, your typical chicken spaces, and said, hey, I've got chicken. And I thought it was going to be, hey, yeah.
I need them.
I need the chickens. And later to find out, it's not as easy. So I ended up just selling to the communities, on credit. Because people were like, you know what, how much is a chicken? I say $6, $7. They say, okay, give me on credit. And so that's how I then got the rude awakening.
So instead of chasing chickens, you were chasing people.
Exactly. So that was the first lesson in business, to say it's not as easy as it always looks. Right. There are things that are hidden beyond just the likely profits you have in your mind. So that was my first punch in the face.
And what else did you learn from the chickens?
I learned that, you know what, you always have a plan until the fist comes and punches you in the face. Because I had 100 chicken, but it was winter.
I'm waiting for that.
You know, I think like 10 or 20 died. And I had my calculations to say, okay, $7 times 100 chicks, that's $700. Hey, close to 1,000. But I hadn't factored in the food, the deaths, and even all the technicalities. Also, you need to put them in a heated space while they're young, and then you need to move them. So there were all those dynamics of things I just didn't know. And later in business as well, as you know, as I'm sure as entrepreneurs, we've got a shiny object syndrome. You always want to go everywhere. And that always humbles me and says, hey, it's not as easy as it looks. Whatever opportunity that seems like, hey, this is an easy money gig, it's not always as easy, because there are always those nuances behind the face value of what you see. So that's what I've learned through the journey.
So I'm smiling because there's a lady coming on the show in the next season, and I was speaking to her the other day, and she said to me, she did the same thing, right? She was living in Chitanguiza, and she said to the husband, I think I need to go into business. So she bought these chickens, started rearing them. The husband was like encouraging her, yes. And the first few days they arrived, she would be preying on them every day. So the husband would be filming her and laughing at her, mocking her. And then the chickens did fantastically well. That first batch, none of them died. They made good money. The next batch come, she went silent. No praying. All the 100 died of disease. She said, you see what the prayers would do. He said, please go back and pray. But talking about God seriously, in the Bible it says something like from small, humble beginnings, small and simple things, great things are brought to pass. So that small, humble beginning of starting chickens, how did it ground you for what came later?
You know what, I guess the chicken were just one example, but there are multiple stories that humbled me to say, even in the beginning of the business, Bergast House, the advertising agency, that just showed...
By the way, let me introduce you as the founder and agency president of Bergast House. And as you're telling a story, please tell us where the name Bergast comes from.
Yeah. So when I was starting Bergast House and looking for a name, we're looking for a name that was so unique that if you Googled it, no other name would pop up. Okay. Right? So that was the first thing. And secondly, we wanted a name that sounded like it's already established. Because advertising, especially to big corporates, is a kind of a closed group. There are already like 10 or so agencies that are just known. So to enter that, you need to have the brand that says, hey, I'm established, I've been here for a while, I can carry your brand. So that was the thinking. So what we did is I always want to create work that wows people, that amazes people. So we looked at the word flabbergasted.
Okay.
Right? I want to flabbergast our clients. So we just remove the FLE at the beginning to come up with a Bergast. So it's a house of amazing work. So that's where. So that also speaks to
Kind
our
of sounds
passion.
German or
Exactly. So
European.
that was the idea we're trying to get to. But also that story of the name I think is very deep as well, because our logo is the logo of David before it's just about to hit Goliath.
Okay, I can see it.
So
now.
it's a stylized logo sculpture of I'm sure like in Italy there's a sculpture of David by Michelangelo.
I've been
so
to see it.
it's a stylized arc of his face. So I wanted to capture that intensity of him about to strike Goliath. And as us, the new kids entering to the market, we were the Davids trying to beat the big giants.
Okay.
You get, so that's where the story comes in. So it's a merge of trying to amaze people, but also the tenacity and agility of David just about to strike Goliath that really underpins the spirit of Bergast House. So that's what the name means, but also into the broader culture that we want to build within the organization.
So I believe you've already facilitated meaningful connections between purpose-driven African businesses and their customers.
Yep.
Some collaborations are industry giants like Microsoft and Zuva Petroleum. Tell us on that journey, how did you get to be talking to some of those clients? Where did it start? When did you start?
Yep.
How did you get to there?
So it's a journey, like you're saying. It's taken us 7 years to get to where we are. We started very early, very young. So it's not like an overnight success where we have all these big clients. We started off with small clients, individuals, SMEs, and we started doing work for them. And as the business, the word got into the market, hey, there are these young boys who do this, and that also acted as a big challenge for us because we're young. Like I said, in a very mature industry like advertising, where there are all these big professionals. So we wanted to get to the point where we worked with these big clients, but it took time working with smaller clients, showing our worth, and then they referred us to other clients. So organically, the word got around to the market. Say, hey, try these guys. You could like what they do. And for example, with Zimbabwe Petroleum, we've been working with them for 5 years, and they took a chance on us. Literally, we started off by doing questionnaires. We ran around like nobody's business and just did good quality questionnaires, and we designed them. They just asked, hey, we want printed questionnaires. But we went out of our way, we designed them, we flabbergasted them, and then we printed them. And they were like, you know what? There could be something. And they started off giving us, hey, brand our T-shirts, brand our caps. Then ended up, hey, we're now the full service agency for the past 5 years by just taking a chance. And that's the same example with all our clients, big clients that, even Microsoft, we are also across the continent as well, not just in Zimbabwe. So they reached out through Kenya and said, you know what? We need some PR done. And by the grace of God, we popped up in their radar and we managed to do that. That is just an example of the journey we've been.
So what is your unique selling proposition? What makes you different from your competitors?
Creativity. It might sound simple, but you remember the old adverts like the Buttercup and etc. So our purpose as a business is to showcase Africa's greatness. Right, so that's why we want to tell African stories across the continent. So we have an office in Rwanda, we work in Kenya and South Africa, and we really are passionate about telling African stories in a creative way. So our motto is brave creativity all the way. So we really speak to just brave creativity that goes against the grain, things that if you looked at, you smile, you cry, you feel something. And that's what we're trying to bring into the Zimbabwean market. Going back to that great Zimbabwean advertising that we always used to run to adverts for, sing them and look at them. So that's the product we're trying to build of brave creativity. And that's what clients have liked.
Brave creativity. Hold on to that. I'm not yet flabbergasted, but hopefully by the end of this podcast, I'll be waiting for a pitch from you, Paul. We'll be back in a few minutes from this break.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
Welcome back, and here we have Paul Makaya on the show talking about Bergast, being flabbergasted. So keep telling us your story.
Yep. So we have been working with this in the market, and the word has just gone around. Basically, like I mentioned by our key signature of brave creativity. So what we've done in our business is that we've removed the focus, like most businesses, from media or the design of the product to thinking. So when a client comes to our business, the first thing we do is go look ourselves in the boardroom and actually think about, okay, what's the problem? Because most clients say, I want a flyer, I want a website. But that's not where the problem is. The problem could be way deeper than that. So we pride ourselves by actually taking time to think simple before we do. So we look ourselves in the boardroom and actually think, hey, what's the problem? Who's the target market? What needs to happen? And then we go with a diagnosis, like what a doctor does. Hey, this could be the problem for your business. This and this and this and this. And this is the prescription, the solution that we think, with a dash of brave creativity. And that's what's been our process that's different from other competitors, where they go head first and do the execution without really thinking about that. And that seems to be resonating with most of the
So it's
market.
kind of like a needs analysis?
Exactly.
Do your customers know what they really need?
No, no clients really know what they need. They think they know, like a flyer, a website.
They have a want,
social
maybe,
media.
right?
They have
We
a
want
want,
this.
because they think that's the solution. And more often than not, that's not really the solution, until you dig deep and come up with the insight. Say, oh, no. From our research, this is the trend, and this is how you can get the 1 billion bricks, for example.
So let's hold that thought there for a minute and go deeper, because it sounds very spiritual to me, what you're saying. I mean, I know God, He's the only one that really knows what our needs are.
Exactly.
And I don't know what your faith is, but I'd love you to share it with us.
Yeah.
And how God is involved in your business. But, in a godly way, we as children, and we want lots of things from Him. But He really knows what we need. So sometimes, we have to understand that the things we need are not necessarily the things we want.
Exactly.
And you've got to go deeper to get to that level of spirituality where you really accept God's will for your life.
Exactly.
How does that resonate with you? And
It really resonates well with my journey and our team's journey. And I'll give you an example. Zimbabwe is a very difficult market to operate in, especially a service business, because I don't have anything physical to sell. So when things get tough, I'm the first thing to get cut on your budget line. You get it?
Yeah.
So when those things get tough, me and my partners and my team, the greatest statement that has sustained us is on the wings of grace. Because with all the strategies that we do for our clients and for ourselves, I can tell you for a fact that we usually pass through by the grace. And our plans are just there sitting and nothing happened. Because it's so dynamic. The rate today is high, it's low. There's a new low. There's a budget has been cut. And
monetary policy coming
exactly.
out day
So
after tomorrow.
We can't take the credit and say, Paul is smart, but we can only take the favor of grace and say on the wings of grace. So that's a statement. It's a strategic statement that we use of on the grace of because when things get tough, just say, guys, on the wings of grace. That's where we get our strength. And usually, I guess it's testament that we're still here. It's right on that. So we can plan. I can come here and tell you, hey, we've got elaborate plans. But at the end of the day, it's just by the grace of God.
It is.
Yeah.
God likes to give us daily manna.
Exactly.
Keeps us reliant on Him,
Yes,
Otherwise we
yes.
get too confident.
Yeah.
So I believe some of your entrepreneurial ventures include, beyond the digital design, include signage fabrication, energy sector, and agriculture.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about those.
So my main focus is Bergast House, the advertising. So that's where I put most of my energy. But like I said, I view myself, I want to be a businessman beyond a sector, right? So I've dabbled in energy, selling LPG. I've dabbled in so as vertical integration, advertising, naturally you integrate with signage so that you produce the stuff you design. So we've got a design, a print and signage fabrication company called Pixels to Paper, where we do the design as Bergast House and send the production to Pixels Paper. We've also published a couple of publications, magazines, newspapers. So I've really tried to. I'm an entrepreneur at the core, and I've fascinated by business, people, processes, structure, and that's what fascinates me. So I've naturally moved away from being a creative person to enjoying the creativity within the business itself. So that's what I can say about the other ventures.
And what kind of fabrication signage are you doing? Metal, plastic?
Yeah. So we
different
do
material?
the full range, 360. We do signage, the metal, the logos, the 3D letters, lights. We do the full range. So we want to be the leading signage fabrication company for multi-location brands in Zimbabwe. So that's the goal. We're moving to 4 pixels to paper on that side.
And then how does the energy and agriculture integrate into that?
Really doesn't. It's totally
standalone.
It's me just dabbling and seeing if I still have it in other areas. Maybe I'm a one-hit man in advertising, so that's me just dabbling with energy.
Diversifying a bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how many people do you employ across the different businesses?
So we employ in around 20 people. Across all the different businesses, mainly the service businesses that we do.
So I'm a man of the future. I often say on this show that I'm looking at immediate horizon of the billion bricks, which is 2050.
Yeah.
And that's my first kind of goal. But beyond that, and that's quite a long-term goal, 26 years in anyone's book in business is a long time. But beyond that, I'm looking at the next generation. What impact am I leaving in this life? And beyond this life, what will be remembered about what I did? And I see your commitment is reaches beyond the business.
Yeah.
You have community development aspirations, and you have about a kind of, if I can say, a journey of getting a broader societal impact. What are some of the things you're doing, and where do you see yourself going? Maybe for us, tell us, the immediate horizon, like 2030, and then 2050 and beyond. Where do you see yourself going?
All right. So our goal basically is to eventually list on the New York Stock Exchange. So it's very ambitious.
Okay.
Yeah. So how we're going to get there is that we want to grow Bergast House into being a 15 country company and merge it into a communications group. The world of advertising is monopolized by 2 or 3 networks. So we want to be to create a Pan-African network of agencies for Africa. So that's the goal that we'll work on after this phase of our business. And after that, we want to then diversify into other sectors where we use creativity as the key investment. So for example, it's just a concept that we have, but using creativity to then start new businesses with our process of design thinking to start maybe in commodity trading, etc., using that creativity. And then using that as the group company to then list eventually. So that's our main goal. And then with the proceeds...
And that would be done before 2030?
Not before 2030,
so up
obviously.
To 2050?
Definitely 2040, 2050, that's the mark and that's the hope.
Okay.
And then obviously from there, personally, I want to then go into building hospitals and schools because I'm very passionate about medical services because I've lost a lot of members because of poor medical services, particularly my mother. So that really then triggered me to say, you know what, she's the motivation that got me, she gets me through everything because I saw her working late nights, I saw her working very hard to take us to school. And when she passed away because of poor medical services, I felt like it's my role to build something. I haven't made enough money to do that, hence the goal to get to a space where I can actually contribute and have that not happen to someone else's parent.
That's moving. When did she pass away, Paul?
She passed on in 2015.
And would you mind sharing what happened?
Yeah, so she was a devout Christian. So she had a high blood pressure. So, with high blood pressure, it can just go up. Yeah, so it went up. She had a stroke. But unfortunately, at the time, we went to a local hospital and there were no doctors on strike. So we literally were waiting the whole day. And she was alive, So in the evening, she literally then just collapsed because there was no attention that was given to her. So that really then spelled that the passion to say, this shouldn't be happening. So let's let me work towards that. Yeah.
So have you put a date down as when the first hospital is going to start?
When I list and I have the money to do that, that's the goal, to have the listing as early as possible so that I can live my rest of the life giving back.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the underprivileged communities in informal settlements. I believe you're working with government for title deeds.
Yeah, so through the work we do as Bergast House, we are the key agency that's working out the rollout of title deeds. I can't say much because it's still in progress. Mm-hmm. So we're working with the government through Kwangu for us, our part is to craft the communication to roll it out. So we are rolling out community engagements, community champions, etc., the whole program. Obviously, people will see it once it starts rolling out.
I've heard a little bit about it from Eddie Cross, and from what I understand, I think there's up to 6 million people that could be benefiting from this program. Yeah. So is that something that will happen this year?
It's already started in Ep.12, where we've already started. Now going to Chitungwiza, which is already public knowledge, but there are other rollouts that are coming up as well.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So leading on to your own personal aspirations, I believe you want to become a Yale University World Fellow.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So what's that all about? I've been to Yale, and I think it's one of the most beautiful campuses in the world.
Yeah.
But what's that all about?
Well, I believe in continuous learning. Like I said, my passion now is business. So I want to go to Yale to learn into their MBA program. So they have a program called the Yale Fellowship Program, which enables people from Africa or other areas to actually then experience that and come back and build the businesses, communities, etc. So that's the ambition. Could be Yale, it could be Harvard. So
what's holding you back?
I guess it's just it's the process. It's happening.
Yeah. You've applied?
It's going to happen. I've applied a couple of times.
Okay.
I think I need to apply one more.
Keep applying.
Applying.
When I first applied to Harvard, I had no chance.
Yeah.
And I didn't get accepted. But I decided, let me apply one more time, and the second time I got accepted. So don't give up.
Yeah, definitely.
So coming to the conclusion of this section, I want you to kind of draw the attention of the audience in and talk about what are the lessons you've learned in business, the good and the bad, the highs and the lows, some of the gold nuggets that you can just give back to them.
Yeah. So I'll start off with the hard. I recently had a meeting with my management team, and I said, you know what, guys, if I was asked to start this thing again with knowing what I know now, I wouldn't start this business, particularly in Zimbabwe, because of how excruciatingly painful it is. Because all the hopes of all the families that get a salary from you are on you. Someone's child going to school, his hope is on you. Someone's rent, is on you. Let alone clients' hopes to start making sales is on you. So just the weight of that is on you. So there was a period as well in our business where literally it was so hard that we had to let people go. And that was the most painful part of the journey for me personally. And those are the examples that no one tells you in the motivational speeches when they tell you to start a business. So that's the bad side. The good side is the latitude and the breadth of opportunity that's there in just running your own thing is enormous. You can have so much impact on your team, so much impact on your clients, so much impact on yourself, because no one tells you how much you grow. You have to grow for you to be able to lead some people's fathers and mothers. You have to grow to a certain level so that you can then impart as a leader to your team. So that's the biggest thing, because I have had to grow. I had no option but to grow, to learn, so that I can actually lead my business. Because I've discovered that if I stop growing, the business stops growing. If I stop expanding my mind, the business stops expanding. So that stretch is excruciating, but it's wonderful when you look back to say, wow, guys, this is what we've achieved in just this space. And let's look into the future. This is all the opportunity that's there. So that's the most fulfilling things, let alone seeing your campaigns throughout the streets of Harare, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Rwanda. That's also very fulfilling. Actually looking at a billboard and say, hey, that's us, is also very fulfilling as well.
So overall, in parting words on the segment in the last few seconds, is it bitter or sweet?
Well, it's sweet because the bitterness cancels out the sweetness.
There you heard it.
Yeah.
It's sweet. Be back soon.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
We're back in this last segment with Paul, and I'm going to try and dig deeper here, Paul, and shed back some of those layers, peel back the onion layers, as they say. So I believe your vision for a better world is grounded in the belief that you have that sustainable change or sustainable growth can only happen at grassroots level. Mm-hmm. What's that all about?
So like I said, the story about my mother is those are our communities. The people on the grassroots are what make a nation, build families. So if we impact the people on the ground and not do superficial impact, that's where we actually we change the world, in lack of a better word. So my vision, like I said, is to really build a business that's large enough that we can have impact on these people, right? List and then have something to then actually build back. I know that definitely right now I can start something on a smaller scale, but I really have a passion to say, let's have actual impact where we build hospitals in the grassroots, build schools in the grassroots, and actually change someone's life who could have died, who could have not gone to school, and went to school because of my work, of my impact. Not for my glory, but obviously to help them in the glory of God, obviously. So that's where the whole grassroots aspect looks like. Just touch the person on the ground and not have superficial impact.
Powerful. Yeah. So you believe by nurturing local talent,
exactly,
fostering entrepreneurship, and having innovative solutions.
Yes.
You can bring about development of Zimbabwe and the African continent.
Definitely.
You've started going into other African countries. Tell us a bit about the ones you've been to, and where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years?
Yep. So we operate in our two main offices are here in Zimbabwe and Rwanda. So
Kigali?
Yes, Kigali, yes. So we service the West African markets using the Kigali office. So Kenya, Ghana, etc. We work from there, and then the South African we work here in Zimbabwe, working mainly 5 countries: Malawi, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique. So that's how we've kind of organized our business. But the key focal points are Zimbabwe and Rwanda. In the next years, we're looking to expand to 15 countries.
In the next 5 years?
That's the 5 year, that's when we start expanding to the 15 countries in the next 5 years. So obviously your Ghanas, your Nigerias, and actually having some physical presence in the bigger markets like South Africa, to also start and kickstart our goal of building that Pan-African network. So that's the goal of expansion that we're going to grow to.
And where do you currently have clients? In which other countries other than Rwanda and Zimbabwe?
So South Africa, Kenya, some in Europe, America. So it's really spread out throughout the world. As you know, it's an online world. So anyway, we can get a client anywhere nowadays.
And where are you advertising? Where are you spending your money? Which regions? I'm imagining you've got a online advertising, digital marketing campaign, and how do you focus that, and what kind of spend do you
So mainly we focus on Google ads, or social media ads as well. We've seen the most trackability and impact on those. And we work with stats. For example, in Zimbabwe, majority of people, there's 95% mobile penetration plus, and out of those 95, about 80 are on WhatsApp, and then the next second biggest is on Facebook. So definitely we then look into those spaces to put spend on, and then other platforms going down from there. But those are the two biggest spends in Africa and in Zimbabwe specifically: Facebook, WhatsApp, and Google Ads, because that can then speak to all platforms altogether.
And based on your plans, which market do you go into next?
Really passionate about Kenya, so having a physical presence there is something that we are looking at. Zambia as well is something that's promising. Still just figuring out how the market is and testing out the waters, but those two markets is where we're being drawn to currently.
So I see here in the next 5 years, you envision yourself as a prominent leader in Zimbabwe.
Yep.
In what area and how are you going to make an impact through that leadership?
For now, the short-term goal is to really grow in business, to have to grow our balance sheet, basically, to really grow in terms of the value of our businesses. Because I've seen without the money on the table, you can't really negotiate anything. You can have good ideas, but that if you don't put the money to invest in that, it's not your idea. It's become someone else's idea. So I want to really build a strong balance sheet. We want to stabilize our business. Have a good balance sheet and then start growing into other markets, because we've tried to go out early, but without a strong balance sheet, it's a recipe for disaster. Yeah.
So talking about balance sheets and access to capital, how helpful has the banks been in your business? How have you accessed capital, and what are some of the challenges you faced?
It could be a good thing or bad thing, but we believe in eating what we kill. So we've grown organically from when we started.
No debt.
No debt. So we basically just literally live on what we have and save the rest. So we have a simple principle. We save a certain percentage. We put OPEX on a certain percentage, CAPEX on a certain percentage. So it's called a profit first philosophy, where we take our profit before we spend it, and then we operate on the remaining, so that we have our profit ahead of time. That has helped us to already have a buffer and not have to wait at the end of the P&L and then take our profit. And that's a simple tactical thing that we've actually done for particularly the Zimbabwean market that we operate in. Yeah.
So would you mind sharing what percentage you save of your sales? Or
so we save between 15 and 20%.
Of sales?
Yeah,
That's
of AGI. So in advertising,
Uh-huh.
we have a term called in finance called AGI, adjusted gross income, which is basically your gross income, basically.
Your gross
But
revenue?
in advertising, because most of the money you get is not yours, it goes to media, it goes to production.
Oh, okay.
So we have to take that out
Right.
before we account for anything.
So it's like a gross profit?
Exactly. So we take 15%-20% of AGI
Okay.
Upfront.
And cash flow, often they say cash flow is sanity.
Yeah.
If you've heard,
Yeah.
turnover is vanity. In your case, how do you keep cash flow? How do you keep people paying you?
Yeah. So we really try and build strong relationships with our clients, and really have those discussions to say, guys, we can't do 30 days. We can't do 15 days. Can we do it a little bit faster? And fortunately for our clients, they've been really good at hearing that call and quickly paying us on time. But also, strategic move was to start the pixels to paper, because that's a daily cash flowing business where people literally walk in, they print, they do signage, etc. So that also helps us on not mainly on margins, but on cash flow, because it always has cash.
Cash positive.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest challenge you've got in your business right now in Zimbabwe? What is the biggest challenge you've got? And maybe the second thing would be, what is the biggest threat?
The biggest challenge for us in Zimbabwe is, I think it's always the economy. It's so unclear because we are a service business servicing other business. So if their businesses are affected, the first thing for them to be cut is services that they don't are not cost of goods. So if the economy ticks, then we are right in the bottom of the line where it also ticks for us. So the general economy is what we're looking to see what happens with the drought and how that affects our clients. So that's the biggest risk we're looking at the moment. Yeah.
And would you say that challenge is the same as the threat, or is there another threat?
There are unlimited threats. Another threat is that competition. Advertising is a low entrance industry. Anyone with a left hook can get into the business. So you need to build a unique selling point that's strong enough. But yet again, it's such a volatile industry because it's low entrance. I don't need to invest in anything. I don't need to buy machinery. I just need my ideas and my laptop and my team. So that's the biggest threat, because it's such a wide and open market. There's no protection of that industry. And then the other challenge as well is talent, right? For advertising, for you to do animations, etc., you need talent, because that's the key resource that we have. We might not have machinery, but our biggest cost on our expenses is staff, because that's our biggest resource. So talent now is that there's no schools that teach advertising in Zimbabwe. It's literally people winging it.
No university teachers.
They teach aspects, elements, executions of it, but no, there's no advertising school school in Zimbabwe.
There's an opportunity, right?
So definitely that's an opportunity. So so then that means we don't have the skilled talent that actually knows what they're doing. So we have to train every crop of people that comes to. So that's another challenge as well.
So to finish off on the business aspect, and then I want to get back to a bit of the personal side.
Yeah.
The monetary policy statement has been delayed in Zimbabwe significantly. And we now have a new governor in office. By the time this is aired on Sunday, I'm sure the policy will be out.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around going back to Zim dollars and completely de-dollarizing? Or what do you think about dollarizing the whole economy and getting rid of these RTGS that are worth nothing?
To be honest, I think the government knows best, because they have a long-term view of the economy. So RTGS might be good for them. But for us as a business, US dollars, make life easier, because you can plan, you can save, you think. With RTGS, you literally have to think in seconds about what you're going to do with that money.
Unpredictability.
So, exactly. Right? So it makes it very, very complex, let alone the new currency that is on the books coming.
About to come out.
So that uncertainty for us is driving some finance people somewhere crazy, because you really don't know what to expect and what to do, how it's going to look like. Is this going to eat into your US dollars? So that's a conversation that a lot of businesses are having, and causing a lot of people some stomach aches. But I'm for the short term, US dollars really stabilize and make people plan for the long term.
I agree with you. I'm an advocate for 5 years, let's dollarize, let's build our economy to upper middle income, and then reintroduce a local currency. So coming to the last few minutes, talking about unpredictability. Growing up as a kid, take us back to those early days, your humbling days where you were born, where you grew up, where you went to school. What was life like? And in some of that unpredictability, could you project yourself to where you are now? How do you relate to that going back, looking back?
I've always been a dreamer. I dream big, which is sometimes stress for our operations manager, because I dream sometimes too big. So even as a kid, I was an introvert, always thinking, always dreaming, always in my head. I grew up in a local Sunningdale, so it's a high density area. And there we grew up as a community with people around, and the biggest challenge I saw there, like I said, was my parents trying to earn enough to take us to school, etc. And they really did a good job. And what they did well was to really encourage us to follow our passions and go to school. And they never stopped us. Like I said, I decided to drop maths, physics, and chemistry for art. And they really supported, even though they didn't have the resources. Like I said, I used to see my mom on a sewing machine, doing clothes at 3 a.m. every single day. And in the morning, I always used to wonder how she did it. Because just 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep always amazes me. And that also gave me the work ethic to say, you know what, if she could do it, who am I not to do it? So that tenacity and that drive that my parents always had to build their own businesses and support us are the passions that then grew me up.
It's wonderful, Paul. I think we're going to bring it to an end. Before I make my closing remarks, anything you'd like to tell the audience as a parting comment?
I think in closing, I think it's to say, no matter how hard it is, always dream. Always be dreaming, because without faith, there's nothing to it. All things come by faith. You need to have a dream, you have a passion, you need to have a vision of where you want to go to. And in the next 2 or 3 years, you might be surprised ticking off those boxes. It might be difficult, it's definitely going to be difficult, but at least dream. I think that's the biggest thing I can say to them.
Well, we know the Bible says a nation without a vision perishes. I believe the same for an individual and a community, a family. So you're a man on a mission, Paul, and it's great having you on the show tonight. parting words from me is a dreamer from Sunningdale to listing on the New York Stock Exchange. What a story, man. All of you guys out there, there's lots of hope. So please like it, share it, pay it forward. Keep following us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.